these women and pay them pennies on the dollar to make your millions. F you, LeBron James. You're a coward. You're a spineless coward. And you're a bitch.
Very intelligent comments from Colby Covington. Okay, so first of all, you dumbass, nobody gave LeBron James anything, you stupid idiot. LeBron James is making the money he is making because of his abilities and because of his talents. He's earned it. Now, if you think he's making too much money, you're the washed-up UFC fighter that got your ass kicked over the weekend. How much money did you make for doing nothing except getting beaten down in the octagon? Nobody gave LeBron James anything. He earned it. Oh, yeah, and by the way, LeBron has never been arrested. How many people in the UFC have crimes that they've committed, whether it be badgering women or you name it? But yet you want to attack LeBron James. I'd like to think Colby Covington, who, by the way, is white, is attacking LeBron James for the same reason why Donald Trump called those black players that were taking a knee during the national anthem, quote, sons of bitches. I think you could come up with the reason why. So why are we talking about Colby Covington today? Well, Donald Trump was in town over the weekend because the guy who kisses his ring the most is Colby Covington. Before every fight, Donald Trump usually shows up at his fights. He did in Las Vegas over the weekend. Colby comes over, shakes his hand, bows to the king, Donald Trump, and then that stupid moron Kid Rock. And that happened over the weekend. So, what happened in the fight? I'm not going to be breaking down the fight. I will simply say this, and if you ask any UFC commentator or anybody that knows anything about the UFC, they would tell you he got his ass kicked. He looked terrible. He shouldn't have been there in the main event to begin with. He's just a loudmouth who can't win fights anymore because he's old and he's washed up. But taking a page from the Donald Trump playbook, Colby Covington said this.
You know, I thought I had the win. I thought I did enough, but, you know, the judges have never favored me. They hate me because I support Trump, and, you know, everybody hates Trump in this building, so, you know, it is what it is. Life goes on.
Okay, so first of all, that's a lie on a number of fronts. You couldn't find one person that is not biased that would tell you that Colby Covington won that fight. Any commentator would tell you that he got his clock cleaned, including somebody in the building that is a MAGA supporter, somebody in the building that is responsible for starting these MMA fights many years ago. Of course, I'm talking about Dana White himself, who commented on the fight afterwards, and here's what he had to say.
But Colby's been in big fights before. This isn't Colby's first rodeo. He's been in big fights, and Colby just looks slow and old tonight, in my opinion.
Did Trump give his feedback on Colby's performance?
No, I think everybody felt the same way. I mean, he got out-wrestled by Leon tonight.
Yes, I agree with Dana White. I don't always agree with Dana White, but that's what Dana White just said. But apparently Colby Covington doesn't believe that. Now listen, there's a lot of professional fighters out there. After they lose a fight, their ego gets in the way, and they fail to admit that they lose a fight. That's not my biggest issue with Colby Covington. My biggest issue with him is when he talks about our economy, when he talks about LeBron James, when he talks really about any issues that are facing this country. He's uneducated, he's stupid, and he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. He shows up to these press conferences wearing that MAGA hat that he wears, and when you listen to him talk about foreign affairs, it's like listening to Marjorie Taylor Greene talk about COVID. Right? Blatantly ignorant. They have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Colby Covington is washed up. He shouldn't be in the octagon anymore. He looked terrible over the weekend. The reason why he's still a household name is not because of his fighting prowess. It's because of his MAGA talk before a fight, after a fight. It's about self-promotion. And sadly, in this country, it's the same reason why you know who Candace Owens is, or Leo Terrell 2.0, or Larry Elder. Now, what do these three people have in common besides the color of their skin? These were three Democrats. Okay? Larry Elder was not always a Republican. Leo Terrell clearly was, and I think still is, a Democrat. Candace Owens was, and I think deep down inside still is a Democrat. But why is it they go the Trump route? Why is it they just switch? Do they wake up one day and do they say, hey, you know what? I'm sick of the Democrat Party. I don't want to be a lefty anymore. I think I'm going to be a righty. No. There's always financial reasons why so many of these people decide that they're going to turn to the extreme far right. For Candace Owens, she wasn't making any money when she was a Democrat. But the second she decided to turn fringe right, all of a sudden she was getting appearances on all these far right websites and TV stations and radio shows, and then she was selling books, and then she was getting all these speaking engagements. Candace Owens did this for money. Larry Elder became a conservative talk show host that happens to be black. If Larry wasn't a conservative, nobody would be listening to him. But the red meat of the Republican Party love it when they hear somebody black speak their truth about how systemic racism doesn't exist and Donald Trump is the next Messiah. It's why Larry Elder is making a lot of money. It's not because he's talented. He's a loudmouth who switched to the far right because he's an opportunist, just like Candace Owens. I've interviewed Leo Terrell before, or as he calls himself, Leo Terrell 2.0. Leo Terrell, once in a while, occasionally would make an appearance on Fox News as a Democrat and a civil rights attorney. But then, all of a sudden, he woke up one day and he said, hey, you know what? I'm sick of the left. I just want to be a Republican. Or maybe he woke up and said, hey, I got to do something with my career, and I think I'll make more money, and I think I'll make more appearances on Sean Hannity's show and Fox News if I take the Dan Bongino far-right approach. And that's exactly what Leo Terrell did. And now Leo Terrell is making more money. He's more popular than ever. And he's making tons of appearances on Sean Hannity and Fox News. Now, I think the same thing is true with Colby Covington. I don't believe Colby Covington would have had the main event over the weekend in Las Vegas if it wasn't for his outspoken opinions when it comes to Donald Trump. They knew that Donald Trump would be in Las Vegas if Colby Covington was fighting, especially if he was in the main event. So Donald Trump shows up with Kid Rock, and they walk first row and watch Colby lack of performance, which was a pathetic performance. Again, I don't analyze UFC fights very often, but Colby looked terrible. Or as Dana White said, old and slow. Now, when he calls Colby slow, he's talking about him in the octagon. I think he's also slow out of the octagon. He's obviously not a very intelligent person. And I'm not saying that every Donald Trump supporter is very intelligent. But when it comes to Colby Covington, he's not. And this is why so many people, in my personal opinion, I'm talking about people that are maybe popular, that have large platforms, but they want larger platforms. This is why, in my opinion, so many people switch to the far right. The Candace Owens of the world, the Larry Elders of the world, the Leo Terrells of the world, Colby Covington, who probably knew nothing about politics back in 2016, and I would argue he probably knows nothing about politics today. But I believe he switched MAGA, or he became this huge MAGA Trump supporter, because he knew it would be good for his career. Now, he claims it's the opposite. He claimed over the weekend that everybody at T-Mobile Arena hated Donald Trump. That's obviously not true. The reason why he's getting all this exposure, the reason why he's wearing this MAGA hat everywhere he goes, because he knows it's attention. Whether it's negative or positive press, it's attention. And if he gets another fight, it'll be a travesty if it's a main event. And in my opinion, the only reason why he gets another main event is because he's a controversial figure that is a Donald Trump supporter. It's very simple.